So court-ordered guardianships in Texas are unique. Again, they apply only to those over the age of 18, and they are conservative. They're very much like a conservancy, right? Somebody becomes the parent, the guardian of a person who's over the age of 18, who should be able to handle their own affairs, handle their own business, pay their own bills, write checks, balance their checkbook, buy food, clean up their house, provide for themselves, not be a danger to themselves or others. When people over the age of 18 lose mental capacity through a traumatic brain injury or dementia, age-related dementia, or things like that, the courts can be asked by filing a lawsuit, an application for guardianship on that elderly or hurt individual, and the court will then determine through medical expert help, is this person incapacitated such they are a danger to themselves or others, and they cannot handle their own affairs, they cannot manage their own affairs. And if those questions the box is checked yes, then the court will then look to usually next of kin, like in Britney Spears' case, right? It's a close family member, it's her father, usually next of kin, to determine whether that person's fit to be in charge of their person and finances. And sometimes when it's a husband-wife applying, usually on behalf of an elderly parent or a minor child, the court will look to that relationship. But more often than not, they just want one guardian, and that person's in charge of the physical person, the body of the ward. And think like Bruce Wayne's ward, Robin, and that person becomes in charge of their physical person. You got to take them to get haircuts, you got to get their teeth checked out, you got to take them to the doctor, you got to make sure they're on their medicine, you got to provide for home health care. And sometimes that person is also in charge of their estate, their financial, the financial portion of their business. And sometimes there's resources to draw against because grandpa was a saver and there's a significant amount of assets for his care. And sometimes there's Social Security benefits, because they are disabled, and that's another whole step in that process. And, whether or not that once they're determined to be incompetent, then a Social Security disability claim can be alleged. That's not something that we do, but there are some fine lawyers here that can assist with that. And the next step would be to get those resources into the estate. You have to open a bank account, and then you have to manage it for the care of the ward. And when there are more expenditures than money coming in, that's something the court is going to want to look at. They're going to have an accounting of, and you may have to ask the court for permission for that, especially because you have to show that substantial need. Court usually will grant that substantial need, but it's not something that you can do without court supervision, court approval. And then the biggest thing about conservatorships is what they call them in California, but remember, we're talking about what happens in Texas. Guardianships in the state of Texas is it requires an annual report by both the person who's in charge of the physical body and the person who's in charge of the financial estate. That financial report, that report on the person, has to be filed annually and approved by the court for continued appointment as the servant of the court caring for this ward. So it is an in-depth and daunting process, but the whole point of this video series is to get you some information about it, to take the fear out of what is it, and help those of you viewers who may have these issues to have immediately some questions answered, so you are not feeling lost when these things happen, when you have a loved one or someone who's had a traumatic brain injury, been in a car wreck, and they cannot care for themselves and they don't have a power of attorney, then that's when these things can come into play. Or more often than not, you have an elderly parent who is sadly slipping into dementia, and the family has to come together and figure out a plan on how to care for them. Anyway, so appreciate you so much. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. Any questions or comments, chat at ashmorelawfirm.com. Chat at ashmorelawfirm.com.